Yo, what's going on, y'all? This week I want to dye some plies, so I went to the store and I got some RIT dye here. I got a really dark blue and I got a really light blue. So what I want to do is try and do some fades, refade, from one color to the other. And as y'all have seen a couple videos ago, I was dyeing plies using these two colors. Got like a burgundy red color and kind of like a teal blue. But if I see any more burgundy red or teal blue plies again, I think I'm going to puke. So let's get rid of these absolutely haggard jars of dye and replace them and start over. Alright, and thanks to the power of video magic, I'm back and I got two clean jars. I also got some 91% alcohol. We're going to use this to cut with the RIT dye, kind of water it down. If you use it on its own, it kind of like clumps up in a weird way, at least I've seen. So I water mine down to keep it like nice and runny. Alright, so I got all the veneer I want to dye in this container here. And I chose to use something more shallow, that way I can kind of use like less dye, less solution. And we're gonna pre-mix our dye in this jar right here. And I'm using my lighter color first, that way we can use a darker color later to do the fade. So shake her up real good. Honestly, not sure how much we're gonna need. I'll know more when I pour some in there. And I'm just gonna add some of that. So you'll see it is definitely a little bit thick. It's sticking to the sides pretty good. So then pour your solution over your plies. And then I'm gonna rinse out the jar with some of this. That way we get just a little more solution in there. And if you have a vacuum chamber, ideally right now, you could put that in a vacuum chamber, I think, and let it do its thing, but I don't have a vacuum chamber. So what we're gonna do is seal this up, give it a good mix. Seal it up. Make sure it's nice and sealed. And now we're gonna let that sit for a good 2 weeks. So I'll see you in 2 weeks.
1 week later.
Alright, y'all, don't mind the mess, but I made this board last night, actually, with some of the plies that I dyed in this batch that I have in here. And I'm really surprised to see the plies actually look really good. We got some pretty good saturation. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull these out so I can start drying and I can begin playing with them some more. And so I just want to show y'all. That's about a week's worth of progress right there. And you can see that light blue color definitely did its job. Looks nice and bright. It'll look even brighter after I clear coat it and everything. And it looks nice in the countersinks as well. Probably can't see it too good on camera, but I'm really impressed how it came out with just a week of dyeing, or a week of sitting in the dye. So let's pull the rest of them out so we can start pressing some more decks. All right, so here we are nearly a week later. I think it's like a week and 1 day later, and I have all my plies done and in hand here. I let them dry just on this flat box and on this drying rack overnight. The ones that I saw curling up, I grabbed and I put them underneath the box, underneath some weight to dry flat. But I had no issue with warping or like any serious wavering or anything like that, and they look really good. So I'm gonna take all of these blue ones here and just put them aside in my ply collection. And these will be all of the cross plies that I use, like the colored cross plies that I use in the near future. But these ones here, I want to do something a little bit extra with. So let's go ahead and get started on doing some fades. All right, so I really just want to test this out and see if it works. So what I got here is my dark blue RIT dye. And then I got my plies that I want to dye in this plastic bag with a magnet, and they're kind of just hanging here. My plan is I want to just fill this up partially with dye and let it sit like that for a couple days, so the plies will dye kind of horizontally. I thought about putting them in a jar, but I want to dye them differently than like nose tail this time. I want to dye them like through the middle section, like horizontally. So I'm gonna try it this way, and we'll see if it works. So let's try it. So got my bag here, got my dye, and I don't have any alcohol down here, so I think I'm just gonna use straight RIT dye for this one. But it's pretty liquid as it is, so I mean, it shouldn't be that big of a problem. And again, wear gloves. My hands are destroyed from this process, but should be back normal in a couple days. Let's just fill up the bag partially. I need a little more than that. And it is a little thick, so I'm gonna grab some alcohol. I'll be right back. I don't want to wash any of that dark ink like purposely all over the plies. Just trying to keep it, like trying to keep them halfway. So we're gonna let it sit just like this. I'm gonna clip it here. And I'm sure there's way more proper ways to do this, but this is just us experimenting, having fun, seeing what works, and we'll give that a couple days, and we'll be back. All right, I did it off camera and using these shoe covers as gloves, but I pulled the ones out of this dark blue baggie of dye that I had sitting here, and they look pretty interesting. I think the best ones, though, are these two right here. They look really crazy. All right, so in the end, what did we learn? And this time around, I learned quite a lot, I gotta say. Now, I didn't let those plies sit in that dark dye for too long. Maybe it was a day tops. And the reason being, it started to kind of soak up the plies kind of more rapidly than I thought it would. So they kind of just all turned dark blue. I took some of the better faded ones and did some actual decks with those ones. You can see them here in this shot. And they turned out pretty good, definitely very interesting. I probably could have just soaked them in the dark blue dye to begin with, but they have kind of a cool ombre thing kind of going on, some more than others. I think if I did this again, though, I would probably return to how I did it the first time around and dye them vertically, where I just kind of soak the veneer in some alcohol in a jar standing up versus laying down. It seems like doing it that way gives the dye a better chance to kind of crawl up the veneer in kind of more abstract ways. And because these pieces of wood are so small, I think it'd just be a lot easier to dye them vertically than horizontally. But overall, these decks do look very, very cool. I'm very happy with how they came out. And these plies just look really awesome too. They're really, really, really nice and bright, especially these aqua blue ones that I did. And we got some really good saturation with them as well. Really happy with how the plies look once I cut into them and everything like that. They look super, super cool. Even these dark blue ones just look really cool, almost like holographic looking when you look at them kind of in the light. It looks super, super dope. One thing I also did off camera is I want to start dyeing my deck, or just doing all my decks with blue plies, like blue and natural plies. I want that to kind of be like my branding thing from now on. So I took all my plies that weren't blue and I put them into that aqua solution to kind of soak up any of that color. So all my reds turned like purple, all my greens turned like a aquamarine color. So I got a bunch of these super, super like unique, like underwater greens and purples, kind of some weird brown colors too, but just some really, really cool colors going on in here as well. They got some hints of pink, hints of purple, hints of indigo, and then some other side of the spectrum. We got some really, really cool emerald like greens, like bright, really saturated emeralds, and really just really nice dark hunter green colors. So a nice spectrum over here as well. And now I got a bunch of like cool blue colors to mess with that will be all kind of on brand for everything I want to do coming in the future as well. So that's pretty awesome. And last time around, I let all my plies dry underneath something heavy, because I thought they would need that weight on top to kind of not get all warped. But this time around, I didn't do that. Let them all kind of just sit flat, as you saw in the video, and they just kind of air dried overnight. And I think this time around, I didn't get any of that warping or wavering because there was no water involved in any part of the process. We were just using alcohol and RIT dye. I wasn't using any water in any part of that to cut the alcohol or anything like that. Yo, anxiety here. I was about to upload this video and then I remembered one important thing that I forgot when I was editing this and making this last part is I actually did use some water in this process, and it's actually a pretty important part. So I definitely want to mention this. So one of the reason my hands got so full of dye, they're clean now, thankfully, is because I had to wash the plies to get rid of all the excess dye. RIT dye has a lot of pigment in it, and you gotta wash that powder off. Otherwise, it'll just dry on your plies, and every time you touch them, they'll just get full of dry dye. So to prevent that, I washed them in super hot water, and I didn't show that in the video just because it was kind of super hard to film in the basement, and I had, hands all full of dye, and I had these plies dripping and all that, so I didn't film it in the video. But I did do that step between pulling them out and laying them on that box to dry. Took them over to the wash tub, got some hot water going, and just ran them underneath the hot water until I stopped seeing the really dark blue dye coming out. Once it kind of got light in color, I called it done and let them all dry out. And when they were drying out, they were good. I had no powder residue on them, and I can touch them and handle them without getting any powder on me. So I definitely recommend that step. So I will say, don't use any water, kind of avoid water if you can. In a past video, I did use coffee and tea to make some plies darker, which I still have some in here. As you can see, they look a little bit like wavered, but once you press them in the mold, they come out just fine. I got a bunch of them. This one's coffee and tea dyed, and I get this one all the time. But I think because they come in contact with water, they do that. Whereas if they don't touch water, they all come out like perfectly straight. So just kind of interesting. Like, these look really good. They don't even look like they went through any dyeing process. They just look like they were straight up blue to begin with. And same with this big stack here too. They dried totally as is, and they came out really nice. So the ones I did saw wavering or starting to curl up, I put under something heavy, just like underneath a box to kind of dry underneath there. But a majority of them didn't do that, so I was really happily surprised by that fact. And overall, it's a really fun process. Really gives the boards a whole brand new character. Although the fade didn't turn out really how I wanted it to, they do look pretty cool overall. Next time around, I'm definitely going to dye them standing up versus laying down. I think that these ones definitely look a little bit cooler because of that reason. Like when they're dyed kind of through the middle like that. But either way, it's super fun, super easy, and fairly cheap. I got the RIT dye bottles at Meijer, and they're only like $3 and change or $4 and change per bottle. And they have a whole rainbow of colors. So it doesn't matter what you want to do, you can definitely find it with RIT dye. It's pretty cool. Even in the blues, they had like 3 or 4 different blues. So that was pretty neat. And they just came out so rich, like just so, like they're just dyed all the way through, and they're just so vibrant, so nice. These just came out awesome. So definitely recommend this process if you want to try it. It's very beginner friendly. Just wear gloves. That's kind of the main thing. My hands have been dyed since I've done this, and I kind of avoid doing this whole dyeing thing because I hate getting my hands all full of dye, but it's as simple as just wearing some gloves to kind of take care of that. So wear gloves. I definitely advise you of that. But either way, it comes off your hands in a couple of days, kind of like tie-dye would. That's really about it. So don't forget, I do have a membership program on this channel. It's very, very recent. I have 2 levels of the membership. In one level, we do live streams every month. We give away a free obstacle. And in the other level, we do the giveaway live stream, as well as you get a sticker pack every single month. So definitely check that out, and check out the website as well. I have a lot of obstacles in stock ready to ship right now, and decks available as well. They're all ice skate lately. They're super, super fun. I love that long wheelbase and that large nose. Just got so much control. So yeah, check it out, anxietyoffline.com. Don't forget, use the code YouTube3. It'll save you $3 off your order. And if you're local to Detroit, head over to Refuge Skate Shop. They have my items available in store. So I post new content every single week. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you back here next week. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Anxiety Offline, and I'll see you next time. Peace.